Hi everyone, I'm Carla. I am a licensed clinical social worker and a spiritual coach, and I pull from these two worlds to provide you with tools and empower you to live your best life. My goal and my passion is helping people rediscover their inner magic, their inner resilience, so that you can finally break free from whatever's been bogging you down and live the life of your dreams. So if you find this video helpful, please give it a like, subscribe, and maybe share it with someone who it can help. Today we're going to be talking about goal setting, and the tips in this video are good for setting goals at any time, but with it being spring right now as I record this, it's even a more perfect time to set goals or revisit the goals that you set in January. With spring, it's a time of renewal, it's a fresh start. We're starting to shake off that winter blues, we're more energized. So really, it's a great time if you feel like you have been maybe not going after your goals that you set in January, or maybe you didn't set any this year yet. It's a great time to set some goals, to refocus on the goals that you set earlier. So let's dive in and talk about these tips. All right, so if you set goals in January, now is a really good time to revisit those goals. Do they still feel relevant? Are you still excited by them? Is it still something you want to do? If the answer to those questions is no, that's okay. We're human, we're allowed to change our minds, we're allowed to change. So go ahead, revisit those goals, ask yourself those questions. And if it's a no, then let's start fresh, right? And for me, sometimes it's hard to tell, like, do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? So for me, if it's not a all in heck yes, then it's a not right now, no thank you. But you will have your own process with that. So give yourself some time to think about it, to really feel into whether these goals are feeling good to you. If you're wanting to create some new goals, then let's dive in. Let's talk about these tips. The first one might seem pretty obvious, but it's about really knowing your vision. What do you actually want, right? Sometimes we set goals and we're not even really sure what our end goal is, what our bigger vision is. And so the first step is to getting very clear on that vision, on what you want out of life. That can be very different to different people, right? Maybe you want to buy a house. Maybe you want to be a successful writer. Maybe you want to have a baby. I mean, that's going to look very different. So we're thinking long-term, bigger goals, maybe your life vision, maybe your vision for the next 5 years, but get clear on where you're trying to go, and then we'll start thinking about smaller goals. But first, ask yourself that question. Sit with yourself, connect with yourself, and really feel into what you want for your life for the next 2 years, 5 years, and get clear on that vision. So after getting clear on the vision, step 2 is starting to set some goals. So I would say set 1 to 3 maybe goals to get you to that vision. So these are going to be SMART goals. If you've never heard of SMART goals before, that means that they are specific, measurable, attainable, and time bound. And so let's say that your goal is to become a writer, a successful writer in your life. So maybe one of your goals is to get a book published in the next year and a half. Great, that would be amazing. That sounds like a great goal. Maybe your goal is to have a career that really ignites that inner flame, that gets you excited, that feeds your soul. And so maybe your goal for right now is to get a new job, or maybe go back to school by the end of the year. Awesome, another great goal. So start setting some of those goals, start thinking about what will get you towards this larger vision that you have for yourself. And again, stick to 1 to 3, and 3 is even pushing it, but stick to somewhere around there and think about what will get you to this larger vision. All right, so these goals that I just mentioned are clearly larger visions, right? Or larger goals, I should say. They are goals that you're setting out for the year, for the next couple months, something like that. So let's break that down, because that's too much. If you try to just focus on that goal, then what do you do now, right? We have to make sure we know what are we supposed to do right now to then get us to that long-term goal. So once you have this larger goal, let's go back to that example of wanting to be a writer and getting published in the next year and a half. What is a smaller goal that you can set for yourself that you can start working on right now? And again, you want to make sure it's smart. You want to make sure it's specific, measurable, attainable or achievable, and time bound. So if you want to get published in the next year, maybe one of your goals for right now is to start writing. Maybe you haven't even started writing yet. So maybe your goal can be to write 1 page every day for a week. Maybe that seems more attainable. Let's go back to that goal of changing careers or having a career that excites you. So maybe right now your goal is to start looking on Indeed to see what's even available. What other jobs are out there that could give you maybe some excitement. And so maybe your goal is to check Indeed twice a week for the next week, right? So these smaller goals, you want to set them for about a week or a month, but not too far out, because if we set ourselves up for that, if we set up goals for a month from now, a month, even though it goes by fast, is a long time. And so we might not, if we set it out past a month, I should say, that we might not continue to work on that. We might lose the steam that we need to start working on our goals. So you want to set these smaller goals for them to be about a week or a month out. All right, so I hope that's starting to make sense. So you are so far have seen your vision, what you want out of life. You have come up with 1 to 3 larger goals that you want to achieve or need to achieve to live this life of your dreams. And then you've set up at least one goal for the next week or month that is achievable, that's doable, that you can check in on. So now that you have that done, I would say the next step is write them down. If you haven't yet, take a moment and write them down. You can write them down on a Post-it or in your phone or in your journal, wherever makes sense to you, but make sure you write them down and are very clear. Again, make sure that they're smart, make sure that they're specific, they are measurable, and they're achievable. You're able to do them, and that you know in what time frame you need to do them. So go ahead and take a moment right now and write them down. Pause this video and write them down. And if you're still thinking about it, that's okay. Just make sure that once you do have them set, write them down. Once I write down my goals, I like to put them up somewhere where I can see them every single day. So even if they're in my journal, I'll put them maybe in the front of the journal, or I'll tear out the page and I'll put it near my computer so I can see it every day. A Post-it note is a great place to put it because I can then move it kind of around, but put it in a place that makes sense to you. Place it somewhere that you'll be able to see it every single day. All right, the next tip after you write down your goals is to check in. You hopefully will start working on your goals, start motivating yourself to work on those goals. And so now you want to check in. I recommend checking in on your goals every week. If I go longer than that, then I will forget about it, honestly. And so I like to check in every week. I do it on Sundays. You can do it on whatever day works best for you, but I recommend checking in with those goals. And just ask yourself, just be honest. Did you achieve the goal? Did you even work on it? Did you start working on it? If not, that's okay. It's okay that you didn't. Maybe start looking at, what can you set? Is this just not a doable goal? Could you set a different goal that would be achievable for you? Did something get in the way? Life gets busy, right? I mean, life will just throw you things sometimes, so that's okay. Try to show yourself some grace and some love. Change is really hard, and sometimes it's hard to get motivated. It's hard to start working on these things even if we're so excited about them. So just check in every week and see what adjustments need to be made. Or if you're doing great and you achieved your goal, wonderful. It's time to set another goal for the week or for the month. And if it's a monthly goal and you check in after a week and you're heading towards that end goal of the month, then great, keep going. Sometimes in the beginning, it can be helpful to check in daily with your goals because, again, change is really hard. And so if you just start checking in daily, it might motivate you a little bit more to start moving towards that goal. And it also might remind you. For me, it's more of a reminder to what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm a checklist person. I tend to write down my goals on my to-do list so that I don't forget. And again, putting them up by my computer so I can see them daily. But I like to check in daily, in the middle of the day or at the end of the day, just to see, have I even worked on it yet? And if not, what's getting in my way? What's holding me back? Or is it just life? and I have to kind of put it on the back burner for now. But checking in will help you stay accountable to yourself and to your goal and to the life that you want to live. Another tip I have for checking in with your goals is to check in with yourself and see, is there something coming up for you that is holding you back from even working on your goals? Is there some kind of belief, or is there an inner voice that's telling you something that is holding you back from working toward your goal? Sometimes we have these limiting beliefs, and I'll have another video explaining what limiting beliefs are and how you can start working on them. But sometimes we have these limited beliefs inside of ourselves that hold us back, that literally limit us from moving forward. Maybe they distract us, they tell us to do something else. They keep us from moving forward in the way that we want to, in the way that we feel would help us move towards our life that we want to live. So check in with yourself, ask yourself, be real with yourself, maybe journal or whatever way you have to check in with yourself. You can really just, put your hand on your heart or something and just ask yourself, what is coming up? Pay attention to the inner voices, the inner dialogue that is happening that might be holding you back from achieving or working on these goals. Another thing I want to make sure I mention is that when making life changes, you don't have to do it alone. I actually highly recommend that you don't do it alone. It's hard to change things in our lives. It's hard to, sometimes when we're making changes, things come up and we have to confront certain things about ourselves, and that can be really hard to try to do alone. So I highly recommend you to maybe pull in a friend or a family member, someone that you trust, to help maybe motivate you, to help you kind of maybe talk through things that are holding you back, even just to say, hey, this is what I want to do. Do you have any thoughts, on how to get motivated, on how to get started? Just someone who can be there to support you. I highly recommend having that person. And if you truly feel like you don't have anyone in your life that can support you in that way, that you can be fully vulnerable with and trust in that way, then I highly recommend talking to a coach or a therapist or someone else, a professional who can support you in these life changes. Because again, it can be really hard to try to do these alone, and we shouldn't have to do that. Also, remember to give yourself grace and love and compassion. Again, these changes are hard. Sometimes they're not hard. Maybe they'll be super easy, but maybe there'll be some failures along the way. That's life. That's how it works. That's how change works. That's how growth works. And so remember to give yourself grace and love and compassion as you're working towards whatever life that you want to live, whatever goal that you're working toward, that you approach it with love and give yourself love. Lastly, I want to encourage you to celebrate all of your wins, even the tiniest of wins. This will help you stay motivated. It'll help you stay on track. I used to try to do all these goals and force them and just beat myself down when I didn't achieve them, and so I had to start with that inner dialogue like I talked about earlier. And I also had to start giving myself some grace. And I had to start celebrating even the smallest wins, because I would start getting down on myself and saying, like, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Again, life gets in the way sometimes. Sometimes we're just not motivated. It's okay. We're human. It's allowed. We're allowed to change our minds. We're allowed to distract ourselves sometimes, right? It's okay. So celebrate those little wins. So for example, let's go back to that example of you wanting to be a writer. If your goal was to write once a day for a week, and then you only wrote, let's say, 3 out of the 7 days, that's okay. Celebrate that. You wrote for 3 of the 7 days. Celebrate that. You got something down on paper. And now you can, again, look at that goal and see what you need to change to then maybe make it more achievable. Maybe you can only write 3 days a week. Fine, change the goal for it to work with your life. Maybe you have that same goal and you didn't write anything, but maybe you came up with the best title for your book. Amazing, awesome. Congratulations, right? Celebrate that. Celebrate all the little things that you're doing towards your life goal or towards your own well-being. Maybe it was a really hard week and you just needed to take a break and you took care of yourself this week. You just took a bubble bath or went for a walk or whatever it was. Great, celebrate that. You showed yourself love. You showed yourself the care that you needed and you were flexible with yourself. Celebrate those little wins, okay? Remember, grace and love always. All right, I hope you found these tips helpful towards working, well, first setting goals and then working towards your goals. All right, so I hope you found this information helpful. If you did, please again, just give this video a like, subscribe, and maybe share it with someone who would also benefit from this video. I hope you all have a wonderful spring season or whatever season it is when you're watching this video. Lots of love, light, harmony, and peace to all of you. Take care.